Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful morning down by the Russian border here in Sashi Adler, Georgia, and this video is to record what very well might be the simplest, fastest startup procedure I've yet come across on a professional level module in DCS. This one goes to Adrian, who purchased me a Russian helicopter that was a switchboard nightmare with over 300 switches. This one has maybe, I don't know, 20. I've dialed the volume down as far as it can go for the system so that I can still talk once it's on, because in the real Huey, once everything is powered up, even before the engine started, you really can't hear yourself think. So here we go. Going to set our AC power to AC phase. I know that sounds fairly straight. I know it sounds like it should be that way, but by default, but it's not. Set our essential bus on VM selector. Battery on. There's a low RPM warning. We'll silence that because the engine's not rotating. Test our panel. Reset it. Test our fire detector. That's good. Turn our generator on. We'll turn on force trim and hydraulic system. We'll enable fuel. Check that the governor is in auto position. Check that the throttle is open and it's past the stop. Press and hold the starter. And keep an eye on the gas producer gauge and the exhaust temperature gauge, waiting for a good start. Once the gas producer gauge passes the 50% position, I'll let go of the starter. There we go. As you can see, the helicopter is wobbling pretty heavily back and forth. That's apparently normal for any two-bladed helicopter, especially one that weighs nothing. Go ahead and turn on our IFF. We will enable our radios, set our VHF radios to channel 3. We have about 70 seconds left on warm-up for the altimeter. It has a vibrator built in. I know that sounds strange, but it does. Set our inverter on, power all instruments. We'll set our starters to standby. Turn on panel lighting so I can see what I'm doing. I just barely have a handle on what I'm doing in this thing, and it's very stick and rudder. It's old school. It's all very simple and done by the seat of your pants, which would be easier if I were in the real thing, because I'd actually feel my pants in the helicopter. But in the simulator, I can't feel anything, so it's actually more difficult to learn here than it is in the real thing. This is the radar altimeter. I'm setting a low altitude safety warning at 50 feet. 20 seconds. So the engine is warmed up. We're going to go ahead and slowly advance it to full throttle. The idea is for the governor to maintain RPM within these green bars here. If it exceeds or goes under, you'll hear that really lovely warning. I don't know if you heard it when we started up, but it's a beautiful sound that plays. I don't know if you can hear it, but that's the iconic sound of a Huey two-blade rotor. It's really quite something. Nothing else quite like it. Going to enable my control profile up in the left side. To hover a Huey, you pull your cyclic back to about there. I'm going to trim it there. Unfortunately, I cannot trim rudder because this thing was designed in the 50s. So everything's all good to go. That's it. It's on. It's ready. It's actually been ready for the last, I don't know, 50 seconds. I've been rambling. The helicopter's been on and ready. So that's the fastest startup of any aircraft in DCS. It's the simplest aircraft to start up. not the simplest to fly. A lot like a P-51 Mustang or something from World War II, because if I'm gonna totally murder this, but I'm gonna try to hover. Normally you'd pitch forward, but I was an idiot and I trimmed it, so. Hovering this thing is kind of like balancing a bouncy ball on your nose while also drinking a beer. It's really not easy. But I have a feeling that I'll eventually get the hang of it, because this is a practice makes perfect sort of situation, not a operate the machine sort of situation like it was with the Russian Ka-50, which is all computer driven. So I'm sitting here at 3 feet. This is a specified altitude for hover taxi, and 4 feet or whatever. I'm supposed to be able to move around like this, and so far I'm not that proficient at it, at hover taxiing. You can see my rudder input, which is the bar on the bottom of the red box. I'm having to hold left rudder just to keep it straight. The bar on the top left is my collective. Diamond is my cyclic stick. Moving around the airfield in a somewhat regulated motion at a somewhat regulated altitude. I'm supposed to be at 3 feet, but fuck them. It's really quite rewarding to learn this thing. If you have DCS, you missed a great sale, because this went on sale for like $20. It's back up to 50 now. Sucks for you. But if you enjoy flight simulators and you've been flying fixed wings your whole life, according to UH-1 pilots, this simulation is, without a doubt, the most realistic helicopter simulation to date, at least of the Huey. The Russians say the same thing of the Ka-50. And off we go. Anyway, it's all stick and rudder. It's all simple. It's all feel. So again, it's more difficult to do this than it is to fly the real thing. But again, it's very rewarding when you can figure it out. I'm leaving my control profiler up in the left corner there because it's a cheap substitute for having my ass on the real thing. Also in the real thing, I'd have a second person sitting to my left, assisting with whatever it is I'm doing, because this is all hydraulic. There's no fly-by-wire power in the real helicopter. As you can see by my pedals, I'm applying left pedal almost at all times, and if I'm auto-rotating with the engine shut off, making emergency landing, I'm applying right pedal at all times. This is the nature of a single-rotor helicopter, which is inferior in every way to a coaxial rotor helicopter, which is expressly laid out in the manual for this simulation, because this simulation originates from Belarus, where the Russians are used to coaxial rotor helicopters because they're better. But this is like a sports car that has a whole lot of inherent design defects. You just want to love it because it's fun, and if you can figure it out, it's a lot of fun. Granted, I've not gotten there yet, not by a long shot, but working on it. There's my landing light. Landing this helicopter is something of a challenge. You'd think it would be easy. It's not. Now you can do a running landing, which is commonly known by pilots as a combat landing, like that, which you're really not supposed to do, because I just laid the aircraft down in motion on skids on tarmac, which ends up in the skids getting torn up. But in any event, this thing's a lot of fun, and it's really simple. It's not user-friendly, it's not idiot-proof, and it's not for the faint of heart, but it's really, having never flown in a real one, I imagine, you see the helicopter torquing to the right. That's the rotor blades, because I didn't put in enough left pedal. Anyway, I according to all the documentation, they say this is the real deal. It's what it's really like. I kind of believe them because it sort of wants to kill me at all times, and that's well, that's what helicopters are doing. Well, single rotor helicopters anyway. That's their job. And to master it, you know, it's not something you want to do for a living. I certainly would not want to fly a helicopter for a living. But the simulator is really something that's really fun. It's really rewarding to get a hang of. It's a lot of work. I'm probably about halfway there, but I love it. And I can see why the Huey is still in use today, because I mean, you can count the number of gauges on the dashboard with your hands and with your fingers and toes, and the number of switches on the pedestal with your fingers and toes. That may look daunting up there, but everything in the back, all those little boxes, are circuit breakers, and then there's like 8 switches and a couple of selectors. So literally any idiot could fly this. I mean, anybody with hand-eye coordination. If you have a clue, you know, if you can feel with your butt how something is moving, you could fly this. It is still trying to kill you at all times, but you could fly it. Anyone could fly it, and that's why it's the world's most popular helicopter.